Hello, good morning and welcome to this brand new edition of the newspaper show right here on ET Now. I'm Cheryl D'Souza and I'll take you through all the top headlines and the stories that are in the Economic Times. So let's get going with the top headlines on the ET this morning. First up, it is Russia becomes the first to okay a COVID-19 vaccine. You also had Putin say that he's given the vaccine shot to his daughter as well. Let's move on to another headline, and that is Center stresses on Sero surveys in cities. Panel to meet today to discuss vaccine issues. Fertility rate can fall below 1% with efforts. That's the word coming in from Prime Minister Narendra Modi after meeting the state CMs. You have India's case fertility rate dips below 2%. Another booster shot coming in to revive the economy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi monitoring NITI project to ensure credit flow. You also have the factory output contraction slows in the month of June. NRN Murthy says that India's GDP may fall to the lowest since 1947, and daughters have equal inheritance rights. That's the verdict coming in from Supreme Court. Alright, and those are the top headlines that's there on the Economic Times. Let me move on to the top market headlines that's there in the newspaper. And first up, Street most bullish on IT sees more upside. You also have Reliance Industries among top 100 companies in the Fortune list. ARC seek 15,000 crore rupees facility from SBI. Gold dives as dollar holds on to the gains. And Tim Cook hits billionaire status as Apple nears $2 trillion mark. And from market headlines on to the corporate headlines then. July auto sales double over June. You have banks want loan recast to be expanded. Pirosha Godrej leads group's fin foray. SoftBank back in the black with $12 billion profit. And Bytedance halts hiring in India. Well, those are the top headlines that's there on the Economic Times for you. But let me get going with the first headline and the top story that's there in the Economic Times. And this is the story, and that is another booster shot is likely to come in to revive the economy. Let me read it directly off the newspaper for you. On the cards is big infra projects and policy changes to make local industry more competitive. Prime Minister Modi may himself unveil some of these steps. So the government is likely to soon announce fresh measures, including big ticket infra projects and policy changes to make local industry more competitive as a part to rebuild the economy in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. That's the word, that is what the sources are telling Economic Times. Prime Minister Narendra Modi may himself actually unveil some of these steps, which could include an initiative to reorient the tax administration. This is as per government sources, and also they are saying that the measures could be announced as early as August 13th. So that is a big takeaway coming in, that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi may himself unveil some more steps. Another booster shot coming in for the economy, and the steps may be unveiled as early as August 13th. So that is the top headlines that's there in the Economic Times for you. Let me move on now to another story, and that is saying that the Prime Minister is monitoring NITI project to ensure credit for the bottom of the pyramid borrowers. Here is the story on the Economic Times. Here below here, it is among the top stories that's there in the ET. Let me directly read the story off the paper for you, and it's saying that the millions of daily wage workers, small farmers and beneficiaries of various government welfare schemes may soon get access to organized credit through a project that is being directly monitored by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's office. The government has actually commissioned NITI Aayog to lead the development of the digital network which will actually involve banks, fintech companies, fiduciary intermediaries, as well as they are working in tandem to underwrite small ticket loans to the bottom of the pyramid borrowers through the existing direct benefit transfer infrastructure. This is as per multiple sources that they've told Economic Times. There you go. Prime Minister Narendra Modi actually monitoring NITI project to ensure credit to the bottom of the pyramid borrowers. Alright then, let's move on now to the auto data. Siam came out with this August data, so I beg your pardon, for the July data, and Karunya is here to take us through the highlights and what actually we can decode out of that data. Karunya?
Siam data for the month gone by definitely reflects some positive trends that seem to be building up across different segments. Let me start with the production figure first. Total production of PVs, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, as well as quadricycle. Total production for the month gone by stands at 17.15 lakh units. It's a degrowth of 29% YOY. But given the challenging circumstances that the entire sector and entire India Inc. has faced in the month gone by or in the last couple of months, one should look at the figure as an isolated one instead of comparing it with the pace of last year. July sales for passenger cars stand at 1.02 lakh units. Two-wheeler sales came in at 12.8 lakh units. PVs at 1.82 lakh units. Motorcycle sales, out of that 12.8 of two-wheelers are worth 8.88 lakh units. UV sales are up YOY as well. So good trend, good strength in demand is being witnessed in the UV segment as well. The sales for the month gone by stand at 71,384 units. CM also says that many OEMs have registered improved sales in the month of July versus the previous month. Of course, April and May were a complete washout, at least a significant part of May. Then May and June onwards is when we started witnessing a demand uptick. They are seeing green shoots in PV and two-wheeler space where YOY degrowth is much lesser than it used to be on for the previous months. And August, they say, will be important to watch out for to understand whether this uptick is sustainable, it's a sustainable trend for future, or is it just because of pent-up demand.
All right, Karunya, thank you for taking us through the Siam numbers and what they're actually indicating. Let me move on to another story that's there on the page 11 of Economic Times. This is a story that my colleague Varun will be joining in to talk about. And it is Pirojsha Godrej set to steer group's foray into the financial services. So that is Godrej Industries, Godrej Group actually looking at entering into the financial space. So what does this mean, and what sort of structure will this particular group have? I'm joined by my colleague Varun to take us through the details. Good morning, Varun. Interesting story coming in Economic Times. Looks like the Godrej industry is looking to foray into financial services.
Right, Cheryl. So, you know, financial services is the engine of any economy, and especially in a country like India where you have just 6 to 7% credit penetration. It surely can tell you that if there's one industry which is going to boom in India as we keep growing, it's the financial services industry. And this is also seen in the way so many people are vying for a banking license. At one stage, we even heard that Fairfax was looking to enhance their banking footprint over here. CSB was looking at acquisitions. You can see the kind of appetite there is over here for institutional investors to come and buy blocks in the leading private banks. They just get eaten up. There's absolutely no issue for these larger private banks to raise money. People are going to India Bulls for funding. People are looking to buy Lakshmi Vilas Bank out. People are buying stakes in Bandhan Bank. So clearly, financials are in flavor. There's a lot of appetite for that. So Godrej, being a big industrialist group in the country, they have interest in consumer industries, chemicals, agriculture. Why should financials be missing from the portfolio? And that's basically what's happening over here. It seems that Pirojsha Godrej, the youngest son of Adi Godrej, who has really built Godrej Properties, and that's what he's known for, building that business into a huge behemoth. He's now looking at the financial services space more carefully through Godrej Housing Finance. And these guys want to widen their portfolio and offer finance products, possibly something like a Bajaj Finance does or what a Bajaj FinServ does. And this will involve some strategic decisions at GPL. and it'll play a larger role also in how their group plans are chalked out going forward. But for now, it looks like they're a big Indian business family who's looking at the financial space quite excitedly.
Thank you, Varun, for taking us through the details of that particular story. Let me move on and let me talk about Bytedance. Here's the story, page 8 of Economic Times, and this is saying that Bytedance has halted hiring in India and they moved to retain their employees. The company has actually assured the staff that no formal layoffs will be taking place, but the employees have already seeking jobs at rival companies. So Bytedance has frozen hiring and reassigned some senior management roles in India amid people leaving or looking to exit the Chinese company following the ban on its TikTok and Hello apps, according to multiple sources. Some are also said to be worried about any stigma that might get attached to working for a Chinese company following the border clashes. Also, you have the company which has 2,000 employees in India is trying to hold on to the staff amid discussions of a basically sale of TikTok with Microsoft and Twitter. So Bytedance has actually 2,000 employees in India. The company is saying the situation is stable, has initiated performance reviews also. Remember, the company was hiring very aggressively from January and offering attractive pay packages to employees before the ban actually came about. But you have the employees who are actually worried about the future, their uncertainty and leading to job insecurity. And also they are worried about a stigma attached to working for a Chinese company. So there you go, Bytedance has halted its hiring, but they are actually looking to retain their employees. All right, from Bytedance now, let's move on to our industrial output, and it did dip for the 4th straight month, but looks like the contraction is actually eased in the month of June. My colleague Poonam is here to take us through the details of the IIP for the month of June. Poonam, how does it look? It looks like it's a contraction, nevertheless a much better figure than May.
Well, good morning, Cheryl. In fact, yes, indeed, for the month of June, we have seen some amount of narrowness in the contraction. So IIP for the month of June has contracted 16.6%. The contraction is far lower than what we had seen in the month of April and May. So we can definitely say that the IIP has contraction has narrowed in June. However, if you look at the entire quarter, April to June, IIP has contracted close to around 36%. So amongst the overall contraction, yes, we're seeing some amount of improvement in the manufacturing activity, as there has been as economy has unlocked within the use-based categories. If you look at it, capital goods as well as consumer durables, that has recorded some amount of improvement on a YOY basis in June. This is in relation to May. Nevertheless, we're still seeing that there is good amount of pressure in both capital goods as well as in the consumer durables. Having said that, we're also seeing that there is some amount of turnaround in consumer non-durables as well. If you look at the sequential uptick in terms of consumer non-durables, there is some amount of double-digit expansion according to ICRA. In fact, we're also seeing that the pace of contraction or the pace of movement is varied across the various sectors within the IIP. And of course, agriculture sector as well as capital spending has helped the overall IIP improvement. But to know that, Cheryl, as we have been pointing out, the various high-frequency indicators, although they have all showed up a pickup in the month of June and July, the pace seems to be plateauing, and that is what many economists are stating. For Q1, CARE Ratings does expect the GDP to contract close to around 20% India. ICRA also expects a good amount of contraction in the GDP. Sajid Chinoy from JP Morgan also mentions that the concern is that the activity appears to have plateaued at these levels in July. So yes, we will have to wait and watch out for how the high frequency indicators shape up over the course of the next few months. But definitely some pace of contraction in IIP is visible as of now, Cheryl.
Thank you, Poonam, for taking us through those details of how the IIP is looking like. The contraction is much less in June compared to May, but yes, it is a contraction indeed coming in for the economy. But let me move on now to a story on page 3, and this is about the panel of experts that is going to meet and discuss on vaccine issues. A panel of experts will be meeting today for the first time to discuss matters related to the procurement and the distribution of COVID-19 vaccine in the country. The expert committee on vaccine administration led by NITI member VK Paul will discuss procurement, financing, logistic issues and ethical aspects of the procurement and administration of the COVID-19 vaccine today. And that's the word coming in from the sources to Economic Times. There you go. You have a panel of experts that is all set to meet today to discuss vaccine issues. Let's move on now to another story that's there on page 11 of Economic Times, and this is saying that it's the best time and the worst times of this Diwali, while the Festival of Lights has sparked surging demand for consumer durables and electronics industry that is working to meet the demand for everything from smartphones to refrigerators. My colleague Vinny is here to take us through the details of this particular story. Vinny, some good news coming in for the consumer goods companies. What is it, and take us through it?
Cheryl, so there are two parts to the story. One is the good news for consumer durable companies, where we are seeing a good amount of demand for these companies. They have, to that extent, smartphones, electronics. All these companies have actually had to increase their demand, increase their production to meet the demand. If you talk about consumer durable companies, Realme, Vivo and Samsung, all these companies have expanded their production. These are smartphone companies. Even LG India has increased its production by 15% for the festive season. Dixon Tech is also expanding their capacity for washing machine and TVs by around 40%. So, that is a positive side over here. But the story is quite different when you come to apparel side, the retail side, where mom and pop shops and small retailers, which account to normally around 70% of the Diwali's apparel market, that has shrunk by around 30%. So versus the last year. So that is what we're seeing, a very big impact here. Even Biba and Manyavar, which are big retail stores and fashion brands, they also have said that, they have cut their production this year by around 40% because they do have inventory lying. And, they will further also have to, judge how the demand is actually coming in during festive season. And depending on that, they'll see how the orders are going to be placed in the month of August to January as well. And, they're saying this is the trend even across with other retailers and fashion brands as well. So this is something, it's a two-sided story. One is a positive side for consumer durables, but for apparel brands, there is some side, a negative side as well. And, they'll have to wait for the consumer demand trends to actually pan out. But something in between is the FMCG companies, where they are saying that, festive demand pickup is sometime away, since, many festive seasons start, after 2 months. So there is some pickup that during Raksha Bandhan, Amul did say that they did see a very good set numbers, and there was certainly a higher demand. But, furthermore, to judge the demand, they'll have to wait for consumers to come in. So, we'll have to keep an eye out on all these three spaces, that's consumer durables, apparel and FMCG companies, of how festive demand actually pans out for them.
All right. Thank you, Vinny, for taking us through that story. So there you go. Diwali demand looks good for consumer goods, for products and consumer electronics, but not so good for apparels. Let me move on now to the top headlines as there in the Times of India. First up, not hidden even one COVID case or death. That is what chief ministers have told Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Growth in active cases is slowing in August. Income tax searches Chinese entities for Hawala deals. Wide-body planes bar from Kozhikode Airport. And DGCA suspends 2 Air Asia officials.